I'm Eric Heinz, EP at Snow Story and head of creative content at MoviePix.
All right. And how do you tap into microdrama industry?
How did I get started in the industry? So it was a phone call from some friends that I produced with for over 15 years, mostly short form content, promotional 360 marketing campaigns, commercials, music videos, and they had already been doing interactive microdramas. And they had a new client that were doing 3 back-to-back traditional microdramas. It was a new client, new app that hadn't launched yet, and neither of the company's partners could be in town, and they trusted me. So I was lucky enough to have my first experience shooting 3 back-to-back in LA. That's how I got in. I did have offers to do it earlier on, and it wasn't something that I thought was fun because I looked at the budget and the amount of time things would be shot. Ooh, I don't know if I want to get into that. But then when they twisted my arm and I finally got on set, I saw a lot of the people that I was working with for over the past decade on set working and keeping the lights on and feeding their families. So I thought, well, I'm in. So I jumped in with both feet, and I put on my business development cap and got more work so we could keep things going steadily.
So when you say that you produce that, or
So as an executive producer, so that means a lot of things. Now it's something different than what it was when I was first starting. Now it is overseeing everything from the concept inception all the way through script development, casting, pre-production, post, and delivery, and finishing. I forgot to say that part. But yeah, so I'm involved at every step of the process. And now that there's different ways to approach this business-wise, so now I'm also facilitating those deals as well.
So if you have a chance to re-execute producing this show, 3 show, is anything you want to improve?
Sure. Oh, because I was wet behind the ears. I was very green. I've definitely been on set for over 20 years, right? But the pace was one thing. So I guess I would have spent, I didn't have the luxury of this time. I didn't have the choice, but I would have spent more time creatively aligning with the client before jumping in, because that would have saved us so much time on set to know what kind of looks visually that they wanted, what the lighting looks like, what kind of lenses they wanted to use, what kind of pacing they wanted the performances in, and how they would want to cut it at the end so we could use that knowledge and turn them into efficiencies on set.
More communication with the clients.
Absolutely.
Because different clients have different approach.
And something unique that we did at Snow Story is create a 5-page interactive document, because there are so many apps now, and the taste varies wildly as far as how they want the lighting to go, or how they want the pacing to go, and how it's going to end up looking in the edit, how intimate they want scenes to be as one thing. How spicy do you want it? We give them a level of 1 through 5 to choose from. So we know, so we see what's on the page, what's happening on the page. But when you're there on the day, we don't want the talent to be blindsided with the level of intimacy that they want. So we really want to get specific way beforehand. And so that's one of the things that we found is communication is key.
So I asked this question to every speaker. How do you define short drama, and what is the essence of short drama?
Oh, well, it's a really tough question. I've been thinking about it since I heard that you asked me that question. What defines a short drama? You could answer it by saying it's the basic structure, right? And I feel like it is a close cousin to what people consume on TikTok or Instagram Reels, where and the length of those has increased over time, right? But usually we get our dopamine hits in those minute quick doses, right? And so that's different than how you consume it in a movie theater or at home watching a premium cable television show, right? I think the structure of it defines it, and also the way you consume that, those dopamine hits come quicker, right? And you're really excited from a cliffhanger. You have to know what happens next, right? They do that in television somewhat before commercial break, old traditional television before premium cable. But it's very much like a soap opera, but it's on steroids. So instead of going 5 to 8 minutes before a commercial break and having a cliffhanger there's a cliffhanger every minute. So I feel like that's the essence, at least in the romance drama and the family drama and the YA glow-ups. I feel like those are common in all those most popular versions of microdramas. The essence of microdramas are soap operas or telenovelas on steroids. I think we can look to soap operas and both here in the States and in Asia and in Turkey and also in Latin America with telenovelas, and really see that it's a close cousin to what we're doing here.
Because I just want to bring other ideas. Some people say it's escapism.
Oh,
Some
it's
people say
definitely. I feel like all entertainment,
are over
yeah,
escapism. Yeah.
it's all. See, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think years ago when feeling overwhelmed with the amount of content that I was shooting, well before microdramas, I was shooting a lot of short form content, and it was taking its toll on me physically and mentally, just because of the sheer volume of what I was producing. But at that point, I had to remember, hey, we're not. It's saving lives here. It's not life or death.
Mm.
So I feel like there's some room to say what we're providing escapism. So it's not life or death, and we don't have to hurt ourselves over it. You know what I mean? We could take a step back and take a breath and say, okay, we're only providing escapism, and that's what we're doing. If that's not an important thing, I think people kind of need their escape. There can be too much of any good thing, right? But I enjoy providing escapism. I think escapism can take many different forms too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a feeling that you don't get normally throughout your day. Maybe you need excitement in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you maybe have a mundane occupation and you want some sort of thriller or something like that to really spice things up for you and get that heart going, get those endorphins flowing off that. Or maybe your life is too exciting and you want something just like slow and wholesome to escape to. So I think it takes many forms, but that's exactly what this is, just like any other movie or TV show.
So tell me more about I'm not sure I pronounced it right.
Movie
Pix.
It's spelled a little funny, we'll all admit that, but it's MUVPIX.
Just a movie, so it's the same pronounced as movie.
There's a big V in the middle.
All right,
I think that's the justification of pronouncing it that way, but it's called Movie Pix. I can tell you a little more about it. It kind of spurred from a conversation I was having with the founder, John Lewis. He, amongst other things, he's a former UFC champion, been in mixed martial arts for the majority of his life. When I met him, he was getting into independent film. So I met him through mutual producer friends, and we hit it off right away. And in recent years, he realized that I was filming a bunch of microdramas, and he wanted to know more about the business. And I was still also learning about the business and where the money is actually made, all the things, right? And at that point, I was only doing services for fees, basically. I'm like, well, the only way to keep the lights on here in LA are to do a bunch of these things because the profit margins were so slim. So I was really approaching and trying to find an opportunity to do a revenue share. And it was really tough to get something that we would think is a good deal or a third-party investor would evaluate as a projection as a good deal. So I told him that. He saw that as a pain point and an opportunity because I told him the only way you win is to have an app, basically. So good luck, see you later. and meanwhile, he just starts building an app and puts his money where his mouth is and asks me for help along the way. And so that really excited me, and providing an outlet for creators to be rewarded for their creations is a really fulfilling venture for me. I think that's really cool. I think there's a chance for everybody in this business to get their creation up on screen, whether it's on a movie screen with wide distribution or a television show on premium cable or on microdramas. So because I have the opportunity and know how to do it, and I'm blessed with some connections in the space, it's becoming a reality now.
So mention about this revenue share. How do you do the revenue share with the creators?
It actually depends on a number of factors, right? So if they fully fund their project, it would be a more aggressive revenue share for us to put it up on the platform as a distributor and also cover marketing costs, right? But there are many combinations of what that could look like. Somebody could also contribute marketing money to their title. But what makes it work for us is that we're being completely transparent about what those spends are with the creators we're partnering with, specifically, not to the general public, but only with the creators that we're actually working with. So they could do partial funding. I think it would behoove us to fund all our originals ourselves and keep the IP forever and keep that machine going. But at this point, we really want to open it up wide and build this together as a community. Mention
about the distribution. How do you do distribution? Currently, in Chinese market, for Chinese company, we heavily betting on the ad buying. What do you see ad buying? How do you do promotion?
So I can't reveal all the secrets of how we're doing that, but we're doing it in very similar ways to the most successful apps in the business.
Mm.
But we're definitely doing ad buys, and it's a significant amount that I think a baseline would be about what the budget costs to produce it.
So currently, how do you choose topics? Are you developing topic in the future? How do you choose?
Well, I was lucky enough to meet people like you. And so a lot of the decisions are data driven. And within that, we try to choose things that are going to be successful, right? So like, publications from people like Wim and Hop are really a good guideline for us. And also just looking at what the top performing titles are on competitors' apps. And so if we find something that checks all those boxes creatively for all the tropes and have the cliffhangers, and we find it also compelling, that's one way that we make a choice to set ourselves apart as a brand. We're trying to do things that push the envelope a little bit, whether that be production value. Honestly, a lot of the American productions, because of it just costs more to do things here, for a living wage for folks to do it, like a lot of the Chinese productions are like running circles around us as far as production value. Like, you have parallax shots, you have amazing cars, supercars, and crane shots, and all these things that aren't really possible on the current trends of budgets here. Now, there are exceptions. I feel like Candy Jar is one of those companies that puts even more into the production budget, and I think it's paying off in dividends. So I don't want to just limit us to a production budget that is trending super low. You know what I mean? If it's the right project, then the budget should expand. And if it's proven that gives an audience response that they like it, I feel like there's almost a space where if it's overproduced, like Quibi, for example, right? They're really top heavy, right? They have Steven Spielberg and Kevin Hart and all these folks, and they're putting real big production to watch something on a small screen. I feel like that's too much. But I do see the trend of, we saw it really loosely produced in the beginning, where it's not too heavily produced. Now we're seeing the production value going up, and I think it's due to healthy competition. You know what I mean? I feel like different apps have different tastes about the styles they want, as far as lighting and performances and the way it's edited. So that's a very exciting thing, and I feel like what's going to set us apart is that we're really catering towards the audience here in the US and what they want to see.
How do you catering to the audience?
We're listening. We have our ears to the streets. What people want to hear. So we're experimenting a little bit. Like I said, we're pushing the envelope to experiment and see what's working. Because the data from overseas, it's very valuable, right? But is it the same that's here, right? If it's completely data driven, there's no experimentation, there's no trying something new, right? I feel like we're missing out on the whole audience. So I hope that's a good explanation of what we're trying to do. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we are trying to maybe add a new special tire to make us go faster.
Because I was in Megan's workshop or something for a while, and they're from fan space. They're critics, so actually
we listen to the critics. We listen to I feel like they're such a valuable resource, and because this is our audience, and I love connecting with them and seeing what they want to see, and we listen. I think Karen brought it up for her title, Tides of Desire, about including consent for intimacy within the script. And I thought, whoa, that's it's new and people desire it. Maybe not everybody desires it, but there's an audience for it. So I'm not afraid of experimenting in niche.
Because Megan actually mentioned sometimes we just see from the data point of view. You find out the audience keep watching. But sometimes it's because they just want to know what's going on in the end. In the end. Maybe when they're reviewing, they don't feel comfortable or not. But from the data point of view, actually, it's hard to tell whether they're enjoying the viewing or they just want to watch till the end.
Right. Or if they're reacting to shock value or whatever that is. But yeah, I mean, we definitely value data. But if you go only completely data, it kind of squashes creativity. So we want to have a healthy balance.
Let's pause for a second. China is about 3 years ahead of overseas markets. What is happening in China will likely happen overseas. That is why I wrote Future Playbook, China's short drama ecosystem and insights for global business. If you want to tap into microdrama industry, start there. Now let's continue. How do you see data? How do you implement data into future production?
Yeah, I mean, really the most popular genres are romance drama and family drama, followed by subgenres like werewolf and mafia and CEO and billionaire. So we're not straying too far away from that formula. But maybe we'll keep that formula of a romance drama and do something with pirates or something that hasn't been done before. You know what I mean? But it's still popular, right? Hockey was a big hit when it came out, and Snow Story did one of those, and it was insanely popular. But maybe there's something that hasn't been approached yet, like basketball. You know, I mean, I think it has kind of like in a college way. We also want to serve underserved audiences, like the Latin American community. I feel like there's such a huge audience there that shows up. The Black community. The Black community shows up for their community on camera. They be able to see themselves in these things. And I feel like for so long, apps, wherever they were from overseas, considered, we have to do this for the American audience. They considered American just white. You guys are neglecting a whole audience here that wants to consume this and wants to see themselves on film. So we want to take chances in that realm too, and really be a leader in that space as well.
That's a smart way. How do you approach to those audiences?
Honestly, the creators behind the camera and also writing have to share that same experience. You know what I mean? So we're not going to have a bunch of white dudes behind something that is a Black female driven rom-com or something like that. We want to make sure that people behind the camera are also represented in the front of the camera as well.
What's your main genres? Currently still romance, right?
Still, so for Swipe Left, for example, we went into a thriller phase. And there's a lot of things that you'll see on Swipe Left, not only in the trailer, but throughout the film, that you don't see in a lot of romance dramas. It's kind of a wild concept as well. So there's still a romance drama there as its core, but we're looking at kind of like a sci-fi thriller almost, or maybe a dystopian current day thriller with AI involved. So that was really exciting to us because it was very current. Dating apps, AI in dating apps, and it really hadn't been approached on even feature film level. So we're like, oh, this is original and it's cool, and we're going to go for it.
It might be a tough question because for Chinese apps, there are a lot of different IP company or web novel company.
We don't have that.
So, there are some of them are giants. And how do you position yourself in the whole market, and how can you compete? We're not competing with those Chinese.
It's such a very good question, because you're right. Most of the apps that I've dealt with so far have had those parent companies with large publishing and story material. The truth is that in the beginning, yes, we're like fed scripts from those foundations, basically, right? Of a parent app that had a bunch of published stories, right? So that's a common thing with a lot of the companies. I won't name them all out loud, but we both know who they are. But the truth is, well ran dry, because you still have to develop them into something that is like, a comprehensive story on film, right? A workable script, something that's shootable in this space. And so they became a bottleneck. And so we were kind of forced to jump into the development side of things and make relationships with a whole lot of writers. So we've done that, and there's so much talent here that is enthusiastic in the space, and that's kind of what we're leaning on. We're leaning on the community to create this together.
I have a question. So if there's a writer, they want to work with you, and what's the criteria?
But essentially, we would love to work with writers that have experience and have hits under their belt. That's the key, right? Like we'd love that as an ideal situation. Of course, that's not always the situation. Sometimes there's legacy writers from film and TV that are very talented and need to do a little bit of unlearning, right? Because their concept of good for pacing and storytelling works for long form television and film, but does not work for this. I feel like sometimes story and structure take a back burner to the amount of cliffhangers and marketable moments in these things sometimes. But I've also worked with clients that want both. They want really good story and structure and wild cliffhangers right off the bat and throughout, right? So I feel like that is the biggest hurdle for an established writer. But once they embrace it as, kind of a new standard of what's good, you know what I mean? And just giving it a try and say, hey, and then the next challenge is making it a good story and a compelling story, one that you want to watch all the way through and that you enjoy, and not just showing up for cliffhangers. That's the challenge. So we're definitely willing to work with experienced writers, regardless of where they're from. And then we also have, if we can't get to a good place with one writer, we might tag someone else into the room and let's give it a punch up to make sure that this is great for the vertical audience.
You mentioned about they have to have a background to have a hit, right? That's those writers are precious.
I know.
What if there's someone without any background, but they're writing films and TV
Yeah,
before? Is
well,
it possible
that was
to?
kind of our solution. I've run into this before.
Mhm.
So um, I love the story, and it's eloquently written, and it would look beautiful on film, but it's not in the pacing that we need for a vertical microdrama, right? So then we would work with another writer who is experienced in that to punch it up. It's
Yeah,
like,
but
hey, take this as your structure, and then but we would include the original writer in the process so they can learn along the way as well.
I'm asking for this writer.
Mhm.
Is it possible that say they never write any verticals before, but
Mhm.
they really want to tap into, so they write an outline, maybe 5 to 10 episodes for you guys to read?
I think that's smart. I would definitely have them do their homework and read Wen Ha's Microdrama Writing 101.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like that's essential reading for a new writer or even an established writer from scripted television or feature films to read. And it's a lot to wrap your head around. It's a long document. But as soon as they can accept that and embrace what the popular tropes are and everything like that and incorporate that into a script, I think that's the best preparation first before just right off the bat writing 10 episodes. You know what I mean?
So, in conclusion, do some research,
Yes.
prepare for it, and
Watch the most popular ones.
one.
Yeah, like not just one.
Yeah,
you know?
watch those.
Yeah, like, because if you have an idea, maybe there's so many of these out there, maybe there's an idea that's adjacent or close to the idea that you have, and it probably is, right? Watch down some what you think would be good comparables to the project that you're pitching. You know what I mean? And really learn from it, and see why these things hit, see why it's compelling, see why it's so popular, why people are watching it. And you might get addicted yourself doing it, but then it really gives you an idea of structure and how these things should be written.
So if those writers have done those research and watch everything and write down outline 10 episodes, is it possible to approach to you
for
guys?
sure. I think so. Yeah, I mean, we'd much rather have a package deal where it's coming in with actors and a director and partial funding. That would be amazing, right? But yes, absolutely, we're definitely looking for new content all the time.
Any specific genres you're looking for besides? So let's say if they want to pitch, should they write romance? Should they write thriller? Or are you open to everything?
I think romance drama is probably the main genre they should approach. And we're casting a wide net right now, so we don't have to get hyper specific. Like we want a hockey one or we want a werewolf one, not necessarily. So, but we love to hear new original ideas, but within the romance drama space, of course. But we're also approaching thrillers and horrors and comedies outside of that, like because we want to experiment with independent producers who have already produced the content. We want to see how it works. We want them to know how it works, and we want to experiment as a community and really see if we can capture a new audience.
What do you think the future of microdrama is?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? I think we're seeing it. I think we talked about this like 6 months ago at the last event like this. I was saying back then, all the big studios are going to jump in, and they have, right? So Netflix has, kind of added a TikTok clips feed to all of their. So basically, you can scroll clips of all their content and then save it for later to watch. But I think we're going to start seeing some original content on that. So Disney Plus has also added verts, which they have short vertical films that are meant only for that space. Which I thought they did well to put Drama Box in their incubator program, so they could learn from that and see how they could capitalize on it. I think that was a really smart move by Disney, because you're seeing Disney Channel original movies being shot for that, also animation projects shot for that. So I see more of that. I see more kids content. I see more genre content. I think the first real true horror was shot. I know there was kind of leaning into family drama, leaning into a supernatural thriller horror. Now we're seeing true horror coming through, which is not my favorite, but I'm excited to see the space expanding into other genres. I'm seeing comedy now, which is really fun. There's been good response to some comedies, which is not typical to the data that is available to us at this point to be consumed in this space. So I'm excited to see how these genres are going to keep expanding. I think we'll see more supernatural. I think we're going to see, of course, a lot of AI generated. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm a fan of more shooting things practically and using it as a tool to make things better, right? Ben Affleck has his post-production AI tool that makes a lot of the tedious tasks within post-production a little bit easier and the workflows a little bit easier. So managing post-production, that's one thing. And tasks like rotoscoping, things that take a long time to do. And we have to wait for a movie to come out because it takes months and months of those things happening. I think that's shorting things up. I think that's a very valuable tool. I think using it for VFX is already being embraced by major studios already. Netflix and Disney and Warner, all alike, are using AI for VFX. So that's very exciting. I think that trend's going to continue. But full on, I am seeing full on AI generated microdramas starting to emerge, and I don't know how. I'm waiting to see how fans will embrace it or not. It might be a different audience. It might be more male-leaning audience that likes that. But I also see a really fun potential with AI in animation. So existing IP like manga and anime and things of that sort, using the story blocks from manga books as basically storyboards for a completely animated project. You can use those as the seeds and put in the prompt as the script that's already in the manga, right? So I'm excited to see things like that kind of come to life. I think that's exciting. I don't think people would have a real problem with that. I think people don't like the idea of actors being AI generated and not filmed. But personally, I've enjoyed AI generated funny films. I think there's a great one out there with Alan Ritchson and John Cena. It was a parody of Alan Ritchson having a confrontation in his neighborhood.
Watch that. No.
Yeah, like he was riding motorcycles in his neighborhood, and a neighbor recorded him getting into a fight with a neighbor. And a really talented director took it upon himself to make it seem like John Cena was filming from the window, and made a movie trailer out of it, where John Cena and Alan Ritchson started an anti-bully business called Neighbors.
Oh, that's AI.
It's all completely AI generated. You can't really tell. You think it was a professionally filmed movie. I think it's a tide that is coming, and we all have a bucket, and we can't stop it. It's happening. So you can either embrace it in some way, or it's basically adapt. I think that's the only choice you have, and I feel like embracing the tools that help you create is a smart thing to do, because you can create more. There is definitely a moral debate going on about traditionally filming versus AI generated.
Because currently what I observe is a lot of Chinese companies, especially the middle to small size platforms or production company, they fully switch to AI production, AI real person microdrama.
Yeah, and so, how are those doing? Are they going viral? Are they doing great? I don't know, actually.
They were doing it. So a lot of the ICODs, low quality or low budget, those microdrama will be replaced fully by AI. Yes. And the high-end premium ones are still exist. I actually asked.
So the key is, you're telling me, because I listen to you, is to go premium.
Yeah. I actually asked the casting director in China. I asked him, so AI is crazy right now in China. How about those top tier actors? Are they losing jobs? Are they doing okay? And he said they're more popular right now.
But then all of the mid-tier actors that were on the rise, no more.
They're losing jobs. But I did find a very interesting thing. It's already happened in the industry. That was told by Sociopath CMO, because she said her mother is involved of those live streaming shows. So basically, it's in Chinese, another Kwai. It's compared to Chinese TikTok called Kwai. So basically, those production company, they're hiring those non-famous actors. They're performing on those very dramatic shows. It's scripted, 7 days of shooting. So each day they will be there. For example, a woman is pregnant and she's speaking to the camera. Let's say the live stream is start at 10, right? She's speaking to the camera. I'm pregnant. I'm dating 3 men at the same time. I don't know who this baby is belong to which father. It's very dramatic. And then talking to the camera.
Been there, done that.
And then somebody, there are people join the live streaming room. And then there's her mother will join and they'll have conversation, because that's just waiting for more people join in. And the real drama comes. They're the 3 fathers, the 3 guys who came into the live streaming room. It's radical.
Interesting. So it's interactive.
Yes. So it's dramatic. I know,
but it's AI avatar interacting.
No, nothing to do with AI. So
but it is interactive.
It is interactive because those audience will comment on this show. They'll say, hey, I think she mentioned that her father, the baby's father, is. They're guessing. On the first day, when the live streamings end, right, they will revise the script based on first day's comments. And the second day. So although AI is replacing those films, low budget microdramas,
it's democratizing the content.
And then somehow they have a new feature. Then how do they monetize? I think monetization is important. How do they monetize? They track viewers into their Kwai accounts. Of course, I guess in Douyin, Chinese TikTok.
Kwai pays them out?
No, they attract viewers so they can sell their content. It's an e-commerce.
Oh,
Basically,
so we have the most popular content, so then they can sell it to another distributor,
no,
or how's that work?
they don't sell this micro drama thing. It's just live streaming. They can add it into a micro drama.
Yeah,
What they do is attract viewers into their account. It's like those
got it.
influencers.
Hmm.
So when they do the live stream, people attract to the Kwai accounts, and then they can buy things there. That's how they
I
monetize.
can't wait to see this. You got to send me a link.
You get it.
Yeah,
You get the
yeah, yeah.
idea, right? Such a CMO described to me because her mom is in such a show. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. It's a
Yeah.
very recent trend. It's about
Wow, what a
1 month
development.
ago.
Yeah, I heard of a new technology here where they're recording a bunch of pre-recorded responses where the content could be interactive. So you could like a FaceTime, talk to the vertical drama that you're watching as kind of a choose your own adventure kind of thing. So not pressing a button, go left to go right. It is like, oh, close the door, that type of thing. And there would be a bunch of bank responses. There'd be zero latency, and the drama would react. It's based off of a white space program where all the responses are ready to be triggered by your voice response.
What I find interesting is that although AI is replacing some of the jobs, the low budget films, but somehow this ecosystem will find a way to have a new mixture of stage performance plus micro drama plus live streaming. It's a kind of mixture creature. And that's very interesting.
It really is. I think obviously we can look towards China to predict our own future as a crystal ball. A lot of the technologies come out of there, a lot of the new trends. I think China's definitely far ahead.
That's something I want to share.
I appreciate you for that.
That's
Every time you're
interesting.
giving me more value than I'm giving you, and I really appreciate it.
Do you have
Okay, good.
anything you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Check out Movie Pix right now, MUVPIX, and keep subscribing and watching anything that Short Drama Alliance